Boom, 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 boom. It's your boy Bo Messi, baby. And if you ain't rocking with Benny on the daily, you're slick. Boom. It's your boy Bo Messi, baby. Back with Benny on GG family. Let's go. Right now we got Swamp Stories. You know, the whole thing been getting wild with Young Thug, you feel me? So they dropped the Swamp Stories, I guess, like, explaining the backlash between him and YFN, you feel me? Viewer discretion is advised when the content to lower your eyes. If you do the minds, if you do the spies. Boom. Check it out, guys. And I decided to do this one because there's a lot of stuff about Young Thug going around, you feel me? And from the outside looking in, we don't really know. We don't really know. And I ain't taking his word for everything, you feel me? Everything is still up in the air. But we just gonna tap in just to see how everybody looking at this shit, you feel me? Let's go. Boom. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this episode, we do something completely different. We fully cover the insane YSL indictment that just broke out. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. You can also follow the Instagram page as well. So let's get into it. Just a few days ago on March 9th, one of the largest takedowns in rap history hit the news. And honestly, many people were surprised. Number one, because, you know, Young Thug used to wear dresses and calls his friends hubby. And also because...
And I ain't gonna lie, I made a joke last night. I'm like, I bet y'all won't say no gay shit about that right now. Bet y'all won't do that shit
is the furthest thing from a gangster. The only thing he's knocking down is 2 Big Macs and a large Sprite. But honestly, I was surprised for a whole different reason. Let me explain. Fulton County is known to be the softest on crime in the whole state of Georgia. Atlanta people will tell you that DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, and Clayton County are all places you want to avoid doing crime. Those are old school judges and district attorneys that will prosecute you to the fullest extent. However, Fulton County, which covers the actual city of Atlanta, is the complete opposite. It's like the San Francisco of the South, where you're locked up one day and then all of a sudden you're let go with no reason. And that reputation has really started to upset the locals. In fact, Atlanta's wealthiest neighborhood, Buckhead, has been trying to become its own city for that exact reason. It's plain and simple. Residents are fed up about criminals being let out way too soon. And that leads me to one big conclusion. The district attorney is under huge pressure to change the image of crime in Atlanta. And honestly, I can't even blame her because at the end of the day, her career is on the line. So she decided to build one of the biggest and flashiest cases in Georgia history.
They have a district attorney that is seriously prosecuting gangs and criminals, and that we are sending people to jail for life and not batting an eye about it.
First of all, what is a RICO? Well,
damn. I get you trying to do your job, but she said that shit too cocky. We sending people to jail for life, and we not blinking an eye about it. What the RICO charge is?
It's actually a made-up charge that began in 1970. It all started when the government got fed up with guys like John Gotti. That's because for years they could never actually prove that he did anything. So that's when they made the new law, allowing for people to be charged simply for being at the head of an organization that commits crime. Some people feel differently about whether this should be legal or not, but either way, it is what it is and plenty of people get serious time for it. But before we get into the video, let me explain a big misconception that I've been seeing online. Everyone is saying that this is a federal RICO case and they have a 99% chance of being convicted. Wrong and wrong. This is a local state-led RICO indictment which is much less powerful. The state usually throws a ton of charges, many of which they can't prove. They do this so that you get scared and end up settling for a lesser charge. And secondly, in the state of Georgia, if this is taken to trial, all 12 jurors have to unanimously...
Yeah, so he said... I would say, okay, boom. It ain't no like, it's like a RICO within like the county type shit. You feel me? So like, it might not be as bad. You feel me? It's still bad, but might not be as bad to say.
Decide that they are guilty without a reasonable doubt. Now, let me point out the obvious. Atlanta is an extremely prideful city in multiple ways. Just kidding. But Young Thug and Gunna are Atlanta icons, and the chances of at least one of the jurors...
We said, and more than one would. Just kidding. You know what you're talking about.
Being a fan is very high. So that was me playing devil's advocate. But now, let me break down everything that's happened. But before we get into it, let me run the intro.
Snap on that beat. Hey, nigga, snap on that beat. Hey, I wanna rap on this beat. Hey, I I probably fuck shit free. Hey, maybe it's up my meat. Deep though. I wanna fuck shit free coat. Hey, I'ma try to look through the peephole. Hey, I'ma try to go free throw. I try to.
It all started in late 2012 when Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug, began making a name for himself in rap. And that's when he started a gang called YSL, also known as Young Stoner Life. They originate out of Cleveland Avenue, which is a street that is split between the south side of Atlanta through the city of East Point, Georgia. Cleveland Ave is known to be one of the most dangerous streets in Atlanta behind Campbellton Road and MLK Drive. The area used to be made up of multiple public housing projects that were the poorest.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, bro. It be looking wild out there in Georgia. Like, y'all really be in the boonies. Like, really in the boonies. Like, it's a house. Woods. It's crazy.
Most dangerous in the country. Well, that's where Young Thug was raised. However, all the projects were torn down before 2003. So many of the residents, including Young Thug, moved out to other areas. However, they still claim the area and hustle there as well. For a while now, the police have been calling the area gang infested, but that's not really true. Anyone from Atlanta will tell you that gang activity isn't exactly what it seems. Technically, there are gangs, but really, it's just groups of friends getting money and beefing with other groups of friends. However, the DA claims that YSL is part of what they call the National Bloods Gang. Apparently, this is a gang that stretches from Compton to Seattle to Detroit, all the way down to Atlanta. This is definitely not true. I mean, they don't even speak the same language. And I'm really not even joking. Atlanta English is a totally different language than California English. Well, locally, the DA alleges that they associate with two gangs, SMM and 30D. The only difference is that YSL is known to wear lime green rags and color coordinate with that as well. They're known to throw up L's and they say slat, meaning slime love all the time. This is a spin-off of Flat, which Bloods used to say blood love all the time. Well, YSL is not about love at all. Instead, this is what they do. YSL is involved in all kinds of street activities. Most importantly, they enhance their reputation, power, and territory through means of assaults and threats of violence. Secondly, they earn money through armed robbery, theft, and distribution of all kinds of things. And lastly,
they be trying to
when they
hide
get
all
caught,
the
they're
info.
known to intimidate witnesses. So let's get into all the events. It all started on January 25th, 2013. Let me introduce you to Young Thug's right-hand man named Trontavious Stevens, also known as Tip. This guy is a certified demon, and he handles everything for Young Thug. Well, on the night of January 25th, he caught a rival named Reginald Pettis in the Summerhill neighborhood. Bang. Reginald ended up being okay, but this took a petty rivalry to a whole new level. And around this time, Summerhill began being represented by a rapper named YFN Lucci. And after this, the back and forth would begin. However, before anything else would take place, YSL needed some tools. So Young Thug's homies would hit the streets. On June 18, 2013, his friend Justin Cobb, also known as Doo-Wop, would run into a man named Dreonte Johnson. Doo-Wop notices that Dreonte has a blick in his possession, which for a normal human, that would be a sign not to try them. However, for YSL, all they see is a walking lick. So Doo-Wop walks up to him, snatches it, and runs away. Well, Dreonte called it in to report it stolen. However,
Damn. Nigga walked up on you and stole your blick. Embarrassing, bro.
would not find it until it was later used by YSL. Well, one tool was not enough, so Young Thug had YSL go get him another one. And they ended up finding one inside the house of Ann Phillips, a suburban Atlanta resident. Well, on August 23rd, Young Thug was pulled over and searched. And that's where they found it in his glove box. You might be thinking that this is enough blickies, but not for YSL. They need more. September 11th, 2013. YSL's Walter...
Wait, did he say they checked them and found the gun that they stole from the house? I know he went to jail for that. Stolen firearm. You went to jail.
Williams, also known as DK, enters the property of Derek Dodson. And after struggling to get what he wants, DK gets impatient. Bang. He takes everything and quickly leaves the area. He then brings it back to YSL. So after these reckless incidents, Atlanta PD started looking into YSL. The first thing they did is search the Instagram pages of all the members. And while Young Thug is blowing up with songs like Stoner and
Boom. Set that ground first. Man, they really be doing that shit. Check that ground first.
in the night, Atlanta PD is quietly building a huge case. And the main thing that caught their attention in the first place was DK's giant YSL tattoo on his forehead. He was a known menace in Atlanta, even before Young Thug was known, so this put YSL in a serious category. But still, none of this was enough to prosecute, so the madness would continue. The back and forth between YSL and YFN started getting really serious in 2015, and the first major incident occurred in January of 2015. January 7th, 2015. After a day of trying on skirts and getting his toenails painted, Young Thug goes to Hertz to rent a car, and he rents a 2014 Infiniti Q50. Now, objectively, this is a nice car to all of us regular humans, but a superstar rapper has no reason to get a car like that, especially in his own.
Yeah. To us, we like, oh yeah, that boy that car number infant. To them, they like, man, I just got me a little Impala for the Hertz, and I'm about to spend. That's what I think. It's cheap.
City. Well, Young Thug actually did have a reason, and he gave the car to his right-hand man Justin Cobb, also known as Doo-Wop. So then Doo-Wop plans to do something wicked with the car. He gets 4 fellow YSL members, Javaris Bradford, Diamante Kendrick, Demise McMullen, and Shannon Stillwell. Earlier, they were notified that YFN Lucci's right-hand man Donovan Thomas is in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood. For reference, this is located right down the street from the Falcons Stadium and all of the colleges. Well, Donovan is getting his haircut when the 5 YSL men pull up. Bam! Later that day, Young Thug returned the car to Hertz, clean as a whistle, or at least that's what he thought. However, the whole time he was being tracked and his phone was tapped as well. And on January 25th, he made a huge mistake. He called...
No. On the tab, and I ain't gonna lie, I think the rental cars be tracked anyways, so that was crazy. And then you put it in your name, so that was definitely crazy.
The leader of SMN, which is Atlanta's most notorious group, and he calls for them to join together. He said, sacrifices must be made, soldiers must fall in order for the battle to be won. And that takes us to April 12th, 2015. The infamous Walter Murphy, also known as DK, is back at it again. He drives through the Summerhill neighborhood and finds 3 YFN affiliates, Dexter Montgomery, D'Angelo White, and Christian James, standing right there on the corner. Thankfully, he's Ben Simmons, and everyone was okay. Later that month,
Yo, thankfully he's Ben Simmons. You ain't hit nothing. Thank God.
Temporarily put their local issues to the side. And that takes us to a blast from the past. In 2015, Lil Wayne and Birdman were not getting along. Lil Wayne claimed that he was owed tens of millions of dollars and Birdman never paid. Well, Young Thug signed with Birdman and oddly named his 2015 album The Carter 6. He was clearly mocking Lil Wayne's classic series of albums, but the beef wasn't really Young Thug's to deal with in the first place. The only thing he had against Lil Wayne is that when he went to go shake his hand, Lil Wayne denied him twice. But for Young Thug, that's enough to set off a beef. April 6, 2015. Lil Wayne comes to Atlanta to perform, and YSL is all over it. YSL's Jimmy Myrick, also known as Pee-wee, has bad intentions for Lil Wayne to say the least. So he follows Lil Wayne's tour bus all the way from the airport to Cobb County, and that's when he found the perfect opportunity. Bam! Lil Wayne was okay, but this incident shook everyone in the rap community. Just days later, Pee-wee went down for it and got sentenced to 8 years.
Manny Aurora believes his client, Jimmy Winfrey, could have beaten most of the 27 charges in the indictment, but the prosecutorial mood against gangs and gang members in Cobb County is tough.
During the case, his ties to YSL and Young Thug were revealed, and he was officially classified as a YSL member. Well, just 2 days later, YSL's Demetrius Garlington would go on a GTA rampage. April 28th, 2015, 4 a.m. Demetrius drives to Adele Avenue to the home of a rival. Bang! A 59-year-old grandmother, Denise Bell, woke up with injuries. Demetrius leaves and heads to another address. He pulls up to the Crystal Cascade Apartments. Bang! A 25-year-old woman named Carlisa Kirkpatrick woke up with injuries. Well, you'd think that YSL would have...
Damn, he hit 2 ladies? Damn, dude.
shame and guilt. But nope, 4 days later he posted to Instagram bragging about it. And the recklessness would continue for YSL. July 7th, 2015. Young Thug heads to the Perimeter Mall in Dunwoody, Georgia. This is a usually quiet and peaceful mall, the opposite of Lenox. Wait, if you guys think that Lenox is bad, go to the mall in Panthersville. It's called the Gallery at South DeKalb. Anyways, Young Thug was asked to leave the mall and then he refused and threatened the security officer. However, all charges were later dropped. So Young Thug kept moving around Atlanta doing whatever he wants. Well, over the next couple of years, Young Thug began having one of his friends rap, Sergio Kitchens. Now, Sergio doesn't have a street history, and he grew up in a suburb called Fairburn, Georgia. He also lived in Sandy Springs as well. Both of these are very, very safe suburbs. However, he and Young Thug would get in trouble on September 24th, 2017. Both were pulled over and searched, and in the car they found stolen weapons dating back to 2013. Man, what is with YSL and stealing blicks? Can't they just go down to Chinatown, or does Atlanta not? No, they probably don't have that. Well, Sergio, whose rap name is Gunna, ended up wiggling his way out of these charges. Later that year, they were pulled over again. And of course, they found more stolen weapons in the car. However, in Fulton County, you always seem to just get released. And that takes us to February 23rd, 2019. This is the most important date in the entire story. So let me introduce you to YSL's two youngest members. 17-year-old Damone Blaylock, also known as Bali, and 15-year-old Rodalius Ryan, also known as Lil Rod. These guys were vetted since their early years to handle business for the YSL empire, and they are as heartless as it gets. And on the night of February 23rd, they were sent on a mission. The plan is to find 15-year-old Jakari Holmes, while Bali and Lil Rod drive around his neighborhood of southeast Atlanta. Then they spot him in his blue Dodge Challenger. Okay, first of all, where are these kids' parents? Second of all, how is he 15 driving a Dodge Charger? And lastly, why is Young Thug having kids handle his business? What is going on in Atlanta? Anyways,
They be doing that. They do that so the gist could get out. You feel me? Like, 9 times out of 10, like, they don't really try to max the kids. You feel me? So, they'll try to do some shit like that.
first, the police
I would
had
have
no
think I
clue.
don't know nothing.
That would change 2 days later when they went to Instagram dissing YFN in their captions. And that's when they found everything they needed. Both were sent to Atlanta's juvenile hall. Well, the beef kept heating up after all the social media disses from YSL. And it only got worse when Diamante Kendrick, also known as Yak Gotti, stood on top of YFN Lucci's car and posted it on Instagram. And check out YFN Lucci's response. And Atlanta police was having a field day. They just kept scrolling through the profiles and screenshotting everything they can. So let's fast forward. YFN Lucci ends up going down, but that doesn't mean that YSL is done with him. So that's when Young Thug orders a major hit. He contacts the infamous Demetrius Garlington. And for those who don't remember, this is the guy who loves destroying plywood on grandmothers' homes. February 9th, 2022. Demetrius pokes up YFN Lucci multiple times on the yard. Well, for the time being, YFN Lucci stayed solid and Demetrius was later released. But this is really bad news because Demetrius on the streets is a recipe for disaster, and he didn't waste any time. March 14th, 2022. A 23-year-old YFN member, Shimel Drinks, is sitting in his car under the I-20 overpass. Somehow the infamous Demetrius gets his location and pulls up. And this was the final straw for Atlanta police. Although the official indictment only shows about 6 to 7 bodies, the prosecution says that they can prove 50 more. Yes, you heard that correctly. 50 bodies, all administered by a 140-pound dude who wears skirts and paints his nails. So boom, let's talk about this. The internet says the young thug is worth $8 million. Well, I probably think it's much higher than that. But either way, what is wrong with people? Please help me understand. Why does he have to do all this? And same goes for Lucci. Why can't they just get money and be happy? And unfortunately, more bad news would come on the night of May 13th, 2022. YSL rapper Lil Keed was found in his apartment and later was pronounced dead. Some rumors say that it was an invasion and others say that it was self-inflicted, but we will learn more as the days come. But what do you guys think about the whole situation? And that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories.
JG Funny, Benny, Blogs, Bo, Mess, and Baby. Swamp Stories, Young Thug and the YFN backstory about it. Let me know how y'all feel about it. I'll do some more. Let's go.
When I was young, they told me go out and get it. Ain't no shortcuts up on this corner, stacking 20s and 50s. No pillow talking to these hoes, cause they gon' tell all your business. Ay, don't want the squeeze in your business. Ay, when I was young, they told me go out and get it. Ain't no shortcuts up on this corner, stacking 20s and 50s. No pillow talking to these hoes, cause they gon' tell all your business.